Well, my next guest says that Christians should put their faith in no man-made government and has been critical of neoconservative foreign policy and very skeptical of this Israel as a sacred cow rhetoric. His book, Mere Christendom, is one of the most, I want to call it the most erudite arguments for Christianity that I've ever read. It pushed me, which is why I've been really looking forward to speaking with Douglas Wilson for a long time. Now, we are in a time when most politicians tell us that we have to support Israel because of the Bible, and I would like to understand how people of faith interpret that into an excuse for war. He warned about politicians putting themselves and their politics over God and the Bible. Now, this week, many self-professed Christians visited Israel and told us they have to support Israel because the Bible says so. Recently, Ted Cruz told Tucker Carlson this, and Tucker asked him, is the Israel in the Bible the same as this man-run government? And here is how Ted Cruz fumbled that ball.
Growing up in Sunday school, I was taught from the Bible, those who bless Israel will be blessed, and those who curse Israel will be cursed. And from my perspective, I want to be on the blessing side of things.
Of those who bless the government of Israel?
Those who bless Israel is what it says. It doesn't say the government of, it says the nation of Israel. So that's in the Bible. As a Christian, I believe that.
Where is that?
I can find it to you. I don't have the scripture off the tip of my... You pull out the phone and use the Google.
It's in Genesis, but... So you're quoting a Bible phrase. You don't have context for it and you don't know where in the Bible it is, but that's like your theology? I'm confused. What does that even mean?
Tucker.
I'm a Christian. I want to know what you're talking about.
Okay. Where does my support for Israel come from? Number one, because biblically we're commanded to support Israel. But number two...
Hold on. Hold on. You're a senator, and now you're throwing out theology, and I am a Christian, and I am allowed to weigh in on this. We are commanded as Christians to support the government of Israel?
We are commanded to support Israel. And what
does that mean, Israel?
We're told those who bless Israel will be blessed.
But what, hold on, define Israel. This is important. Are you kidding? This is a majority Christian country.
Define Israel? Do you not know what Israel is? That would be the country you've asked like 49 questions about.
So that's what Genesis, that's what God is talking about.
The nation of Israel, yes.
So is that the current borders, the current leadership? He's talking about the political entity called Israel?
Okay. Now, Pastor Wilson, I'm very excited to meet you. Thank you so much for coming on Redacted. I want to see if I understood your book correctly. So I have a few questions, and if you'll forgive me, I'm going to keep talking before I hand it over to you. As I understand your writings, you warn that a moral society requires Christianity because if there's no God above the state becomes the God, and we are then a slave to the state. So it feels to me like politicians are playing out their will in the name of God. And I think that from my observation, there are two categories of Christian Zionists, the ones that sort of blindly follow Trump and those who believe that there's a biblical mandate to support Israel because of the Bible. You call this a syncretism. I've never heard this word before, so I put up the definition. It's the blending of two belief systems, like politics and religion. So can we please deal with that in this order? And now I will let you talk and again say how happy I am to talk to you. And maybe you can tell us, what is Christian Zionism and is it in fact biblical? Oh, you're muted. Is he muted on purpose, guys?
There we go.
Yep, so, gotcha.
Good to be with you. It's Christian Zionism is a particular theological construct that grows out of dispensationalism. Dispensationalism teaches that there is a prophetic role still to be played by Israel as an ethnic entity, right? So dispensationalists regard the founding of Israel in 1948 as resetting the prophetic clock, so that a lot of the prophecies that are contained in the Old Testament will now start coming true, now that Israel has returned to the land. Okay, so they believe that Israel had a right to return to that territory simply because they were Jews. Okay, so God promised Abraham that territory, and so the Jews had the right to go back to that territory. So that's a theological argument for the Israelis to have that territory. But I want to make a distinction between Christian Zionism, or any form of Zionism, actually, and the de facto reality of Israel there now. And the way I illustrate that is I don't agree with the 19th century doctrine of manifest destiny at all, right? The idea that the United States was inevitably going to march toward the Pacific Ocean. The continent was ours by right. Everybody with eyes in their head could see that this was our manifest destiny. So I don't agree with that doctrine at all, but I live in Idaho, right? So my de facto presence in Idaho is I'm here because somebody 150 years ago believed in manifest destiny, even though I don't, right?
You didn't do it.
I didn't do it. And
we
here
all
I am.
live with the consequences of former governments. That's why we live in these places.
Correct.
We can't be blamed for them.
So someone could say, and I find myself in this position, I'm not a Christian Zionist at all, because Reformed covenantal theology, which I adhere to, holds that the church, the Christian church, is Israel now. This is disparaged sometimes. It's sometimes called replacement theology, but it's the idea that the church is the heir of all the promises of the Old Testament. So, and the New Testament has a great controversy. Do you have to become a Jew in order to become a Christian? The Jerusalem Council in Acts 15 said, no, you don't, which opened the door wide to Gentiles coming into the new Commonwealth of Israel. Now, over time, the new Israel became predominantly Gentile, and those Jews who believed in Christ as the Messiah were gradually assimilated into this new, heavily Gentile church. And the Jews who retained their Jewish identity did so by maintaining a stiff resistance against believing Jesus as the Messiah. In the 19th century, this belief, this dispensational theology developed, and actually the Balfour Declaration, which was Lord Balfour of the United Kingdom, made this declaration in a letter to a Jewish emissary, and he basically created the idea of Jews returning to their homeland, to their ancient homeland. So but in the Bible, you always have Jews returning to the Lord first, and then to the land. And the modern state, the modern state of Israel is secular. It's not a religious state; it's a secular state, and that creates all kinds of interesting challenges. And they've got the ultra Orthodox Jews there in Israel who are. They have the swing vote in many elections because that's what the parliamentary system does. So they have a lot of outsized influence, but the state itself is a secular state, and that puts an interesting spin on everything. So someone might support the right of Israel to defend itself, which I do, without dragging the promise to Abraham into it.
Well, you guys know I've been railing against these huge tech companies that want to own everything about us. They don't just want our money. They want to know everything about you. These sort of shadowy data brokers making a living, compiling detailed profiles of your online activity, everything that you are doing. And they're selling them to marketers and other corporate interests. And it seems like the U.S. government is in lockstep with these companies. But there is a way to keep your browsing history truly private so that they cannot snoop on you. And I use it every day. I've got it on my laptop sitting right here in front of me. I have it on my Mac in my office. I have it on my iPhone. It's an app called ExpressVPN. One of the easiest ways for data brokers to track you is through your device's unique IP address, which also reveals information about your location. When you have ExpressVPN turned on, your IP address is hidden. that makes it much more difficult for data brokers to monitor, track, and monetize your private online activity. Now, I use it all the time, every day. We wouldn't be able to do our show because there are so many news websites that are blocked in certain countries because they don't want you to know the truth. Well, guess what? I jump on using ExpressVPN. I'm able to jump into a different country, use a different IP address, and able to get access to that information. So just one tap to turn it on and you are protected. It's that easy. So guys, right now, find out how you can get 4 months free by scanning the QR code right on your screen, clicking the link in the description box below, or simply by going to expressvpn.com/redacted. Get 4 months free just by scanning that QR code right on your screen, or clicking the link in the description box below, or simply going to expressvpn.com/redacted.
And so it seems like that they have a type of syncretism, if I say that word right, that we have, which is this confusion that your politicians are representing your religion. You warn about this at politicians people who see politicians as Jesus or as their religion. I brought this clip from your book. You said if you have a flag with Jesus on it and Jesus is wearing a MAGA hat, then you're guilty of this syncretism. You need to topple these deities. And so it's a lot like what's happening here is that people just have this blind allegiance to Trump, and so they will support the war if he says so. The same that happens.
When I saw the clip of looking at the clip of Mike Johnson that you showed and Ted Cruz, it's just very clear that they grew up in a dispensational context where they simply say support for Israel is biblically mandated. Well, in every Israeli election, half of the Israeli population doesn't support Israel. They're divided just like we are, and a lot of the people. This is one of the places where I thought that Tucker was playing hardball and a little unfair with Cruz, because Cruz was wanting to say you support Israel, and Tucker was saying you have to support the government of Israel. No, I could. Even if I were a Christian Zionist, I might be appalled at the next Israeli prime minister that was elected and think that, so I might be opposed to the government of Israel while supporting the long-term health of Israel. And someone who supports Israel's right to defend itself on practical grounds doesn't have to support the current administration of Israel at all. Or a particular policy that they're pursuing in Gaza or the West Bank or anything like that.
So you take them at their word for it, because I guess when I hear them saying this, I hear they're playing politics because they want a war. But you think that it's sincere. They think that this is a real biblical interpretation.
Oh, yeah. So you have to understand that North American evangelicalism is overwhelmingly dispensational. It's just part of the wallpaper of the Christian mind in North America. So I don't think that they were being insincere in what they were saying at all. Now, they may support war or support what Israel's doing on other grounds in addition, but I would have no grounds for questioning the sincerity of those statements at face value, because there are millions of Christians in North America who would talk just like that, who that sounded very familiar. I'll just put it that way.
Okay, so what do you make of young people rejecting Christian Zionism or thinking that this does not, it should not come with a foreign policy agenda? We see collapse among young people who support this war, who maybe they can see the difference between politics and religion, whereas an older generation cannot. What do you make of that?
Yeah, so if you have a decent policy or a sane policy that rests upon a false premise, when the false premise gives way, then a lot of things might give way with it. So I believe that young people, even young ostensible conservatives, are coming of age politically in the post-COVID world, and there are a lot of people who have come to the conclusion that I need to not believe anything any government official is telling me. Right?
Yeah.
Basically,
it's a smart place to start.
I would say that's a good baseline. As long as you're not bitter or cynical or full of malice, it's a good idea to stop believing the government. Over the last 5 years, virtually every American institution that used to command high levels of trust has discredited itself, whether it's the universities or the Center for Disease Control or the military or the intelligence agencies. It's just been one faceplant after another. And so consequently, a lot of young people it's like they're in free fall. All the supports that enabled previous generations to feel at least oriented or secure in where they were, all of that's gone. And about the only thing they have is some guy they found on the internet. And so consequently, they're blown. I think their temptation is going to be blown about by every wind of doctrine, because Chesterton didn't say this, but he should have. If a man doesn't stand for something, he'll fall for anything. And I think that's the position that many people are in, and the establishment let them down, basically. And if you want people to quit chasing after conspiracy theories, I would say to the establishment, well, then stop telling lies.
Right. But your book makes the point that no man-run government can ever be put before your God or Jesus Christ. They must be in service to God. And we don't have that, but we do have young people turning to Christianity more. So could we spin this in any kind of positive way, saying they no longer believe in these man-made structures, so they're looking for a deity above that, and maybe they're finding it and rejecting man-made structures. So maybe there's hope in the young people.
No, I do think it's hopeful. I do think it's a good thing. I just think that if you look at the last 2,000 years of church history, almost all good things were incredibly messy. Right? Good things does not mean fluffy clouds and unicorns and rainbows. Good things are often tumultuous and challenging, and courage is required, and hard study, and so I think I think we're in that kind of a position now. And some people, there have been great reformations and revivals in the past, and some people destroyed themselves in it, and some people found their way in it. And I'm trusting God that He's writing a good story. I'm fond of saying that God draws straight with crooked lines, and He uses broken people. I think He cares for us. And so consequently, a lot of the young people who are turning back to the church, turning back to Christ, or are searching, they're searchers, I think that's an opportunity that people who are established Christians should take full advantage of. And but the main thing that I would say is don't follow haters. Right? Don't follow haters. Find people who preach and teach from the Bible, who know how to build community and live in community, who, even if they differ with some particular policy, they're not consumed with venom or animosity. I'd like to talk about MANA, M-A-N-A, make America normal again.
Yeah, right. Okay. Well, thank you for that. I really appreciate your interpretation. I've been, like I said, looking forward to speaking with you since I read your book, and I really liked it. And so I have so many more highlights that maybe you can come back and talk to me about some other time.
If you want to pursue this further, I did write another book called American Milk and Honey, and it's on the whole Israel thing, Americanism, Zionism, the whole deal, and it's a challenging subject. Not an easy one, but I do think the Bible teaches on the subject directly. So I appreciate the opportunity to talk with y'all.
I'll read it and come back to you. Please come back.
All right. Good. Blessings.
Thank you so much.